Last week, we started an amazing conversation with Charlotte Art Council Executive Director Jim Dukes and spoken word poetry coach Jah Smalls. We were right in the middle of some really powerful stuff when we had to stop talking, but now we're back, and we're going to keep going here. How do you find inspiration for your art, Jah?
Oh, wow. So I can write on any topic. I want to say that first. I can teach someone to write on any topic as well. I've been disabled for a few years after another on the job injury I sustained, which added to my other injuries from the being gunned down at such a young age. And I've learned to channel my pain, my ailments. I learned to take that energy and dig deeper into whatever I'm writing. So whether it's a happy piece or a sad piece, I dig in. So I find the best inspiration from something that I feel. I'll give an example. There's a documentary that I watched called 16 Shots. So it was on Netflix, right? 16 Shots is about the first time a police officer was actually convicted of killing someone. And he shot the poor guy, this young guy, 16 times. I watched that documentary, and when it went off, I wrote the poem in 8.5 minutes. You see what I'm saying? So it just depends on what I'm feeling. So it's always a feel with me. It's not I'm just going to write about the birds and the trees and the flowers. I can. But if I'm going to spend time with it, for the most part, it's something that I feel, and I grab from that. And that's usually how I get most of my inspiration, something I feel from whatever's going on around me.
Thank you. Jim, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, so I do photography, and then I do mixed media art. And so with my photography, I work with a variety of clients. Most of them have different stories. Jah is an inspiration for me. We didn't talk about a project that we're working on together, but I would say inspiration for me. I don't go out and take pictures of landscapes. I got into photography as my healing outlet. I'm blind in one eye and deaf in one ear, and it's dealing with PTSD and social anxiety and disarming bombs. I'm trained to see all the things in the world around me that can kill me. And through photography, it teaches me to see the world through this lens of trying to find the beauty in the world around me, as opposed to those things that could kill me. So that's the photography side. And then I use my PTSD as inspiration for my other artwork as well. And then sometimes I just make art to make people angry.
Jim, I'm sorry, that was just magic. The way you actually said that was like magic, bro. I'm sorry. Yeah, wow. That was magic.
He needs to write that down, Jah. What do you think?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
All right. Well, this is recorded, so when the podcast comes out, you can help him out if he forgets it.
I got him.
All right.
All right. So, Jah, I'm gonna talk to you a little bit about this other part of your life, because you did say you can teach someone how to write.
Yeah.
You're a coach. So how do you coach someone through the process of spoken word writing?
The first thing I tell people when they have our first initial speaking sit down, I always tell them that I don't believe in writer's block, number one. And they look at me like I'm crazy. Look, I'm strange. It's like, what do you mean? And here's why I say that. And there's this reason I tell them this. You can always write something. You never, in a situation, unless you just can't write at all, right? You can always, even if it's just scribble, you can always write something. And once they realize that tells them automatically that they qualify to be a writer. Doesn't mean you're going to have a bestseller, but it means you can write. So it already takes down the anxiety a notch. And now we're just having a conversation. And I want to know what you want to write about, how you want to, and I use different things. I use objects, I use ideas, I use dreams, whatever stems from their conversation with me. So it's kind of like a salesperson, right? A salesperson doesn't sell you a car. They show you the car that you want to buy. That's it. I don't teach you to write. I show you how to write exactly what you're trying to say. So that's how I ended up coaching. I just take people from where they're at. And sometimes it ends up just journaling, which is amazing. Sometimes it ends up short stories. Sometimes it ends up short poems. I've had people that I've coached write more haikus than I have. I don't really write haikus, but they end up writing more haikus because we're talking about them, you know? So it's really just listening and finding out what do they want? What do you want from this? And then I kind of guide you along the way from the stories and different things that people tell me. And it's just a magical thing. The people tell you what they want, and then you just kind of usher them in.
I appreciate that. I'm an educator, and so there is a satisfaction, a magic when you see the penny drop.
Yes.
And when you have that opportunity to connect with your student on a level that allows them to express something. So if I can put you on the spot, I heard you talk about something in one of your poems about chapters in disarray.
Yeah.
That was very powerful. Would you be willing to share a little bit of some of your spoken word with us tonight?
Yeah, that poem in particular?
That poem or anything that you are feeling. I don't want to put anything in direction to you. I think we can connect in so many ways. And especially in this season of COVID, you really kind of nailed some, I think, of the emotion and the connection that many probably are experiencing.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be that one, but we would love to put you on the spot and hear from you tonight.
No, do you want me to do it now? I can read it now. That's fine.
Sure. Yeah, that
one since you mentioned it.
Yeah.
And, yeah. Chapter 1. Boy meets girl in candy store. Googly eyes lead to a phone number written on a tiny sheet of paper, and it sounds a lot like a lullaby. Well, time passes, and eventually holding hands in a movie theater leads to a first kiss. And I like to think of this as my beginning of my beginning. There was a time when my mom and dad shared a home phone number. They shared an address where they both received mail, chapter 26. I can't remember the reason why, but Dad found a new home and he never asked us for permission. And now I find myself waiting for his ringtone instead of waiting to hear him pull up in the driveway and his jingling keys hit against the front door, chapter 29. My friends teach me things I thought I would learn from my dad, like how to shave, how to check the fluids in my car, how to turn on the faucet when I'm using the restroom so my mom doesn't hear me in the bathroom. I thought I would learn these from my dad, but instead, from him I learned how to run and how to see a finish line and forgetting everything I've seen along the way. Where were you when I needed you? When my friends' mothers turned corner store runs into indecent acts with teenagers. And I thought this was the best thing in life, chapter 2 through 7. I found safety in those Brooklyn streets. And even though we had to dodge bullets and renegade policemen, we still found a comfort there. At least it was until they found me. And their thirst for my DJ equipment watered their mouths, and then those shots rang out. And while I laid bloody, and the blood ran from my wounds, all I could think of was, who's going to protect my family? I'm nearly half dead, and all I could think of is, Jah, you can't die now because they still need you, chapter 10. The randomness of country life begins. Adulthood sounds a lot like protect and serve her because she is not concerned about what I need. Chapter 16. There's an on-the-job injury. And I've got more head trauma. Ken Harris is the worst attorney Charlotte has known, but there's open mic now. And I can tell my story from the other end of this microphone, but I'm still afraid. And I'm just not ready yet. So let me help some other folks before I can begin my journey, chapter 0. It's a new day. No one shows up for practice. Half the team doesn't want to practice. I'm ready to be the quarterback and the coach. My life is spinning. Granny's boys is ready. This world ain't ready. We are about to spark some new things. This means we are on to some new things. Big screens, city lights, West Coast trips. 3 more books coming. Coronavirus comes in. Lockdown finds us. We're now behind closed doors. Shows are canceled. Depression calling my first name. Southern Fried canceled. Open mic on Instagram begins. Still, festival is canceled. Someone better have my money. Can't do workshops now. Can't have parties now. Still can't trust this government. Cousin just died. 2 friends fighting. Coronavirus is still kicking some ass. People are fighting over toilet paper and hand sanitizer. This world has gone crazy. The military is about to lock things down, and here we are. A bunch of chapters traveling in disarray. Nothing makes sense these days, and my life is about the same that it has always been. Somewhere in the entanglement of this nonsense, I have always been the opposite of a train wreck, and somehow, I'm still loving this. And that is that piece.
I don't know, Holland. How do you follow that one up?
Yeah, I don't know. I was wondering why you made me ask a question after that.
Yeah, a mic drop and good night. Wow. Thank you.
I'm gone. See ya.
Thank you. The idea of the chapters in disarray. That's why they're numbered like that. That is
totally got it.
My PTSD. That's speaking of how my depression sends things. Because with me, PTSD hits me in segments. It's this thing. And then this thing is that thing. And then there's something else. And it's always here. And it's never a straight line. It's always this happened and then now this happened and it's all over. And I've gone through 20-something years jumping around. So that was, I actually like that piece, to be honest with you. So.
Well, I can only speak for me and what I like and how I can connect with it. But I understand that linear life is not really in existence. I don't know anyone who just goes from chapter 1 to chapter 2 and continues on. That would be lovely. But I do think that's why I was so drawn to that, because chapters in disarray seem to be a beautiful encapsulation of what's going on in our world right now.
Yeah.
A lot of people.
Yeah.
Very much for sharing.
Thank you. Thank you.
Jim, how could spoken word art intersect with visual art to offer even more?
Glad you asked. So Charlotte Art League, I don't know if you guys heard that Charlotte had this big street mural, the Black Lives Matter street mural. Charlotte Art League was asked, there's a block there of North Tryon Street that had a bunch of windows boarded up, 84 windows. And the building owner property manager asked us to assemble a team of muralists and graffiti artists to come in and paint over all of the boards. So it wasn't just a big, ugly mess. And in 2 days, we did. We had a team on site, and it was just a lovely community. I think we had a total of 20 artists that painted, and then there was 100 to 200 citizens that participated, including CMPD officers. But Jah and I got out there one day when I had to go do an interview, and he said, let's shoot out there. And then so I got my camera, and we just did a bunch of still photos, and then did some video of him in front of a lot of this graffiti art and murals and peace. It was all, they wanted the work based on peace, love, and happiness, and no political stuff. And it was just love, joy, and positive messages. And there were some memorials, and there were some just really powerful, beautiful artwork and images. And the city of Charlotte shut that block down for a weekend just so citizens could come there and just take in all the artwork just on the ground and walls and everything. So we just put together this 3-minute video of stills and video, and then I handed it over to Jah, and Jah is doing what with it?
I'm working some magic.
Yeah.
I'm so excited about finishing up this piece to go with that video. Yeah.
So he's writing over that.
Mm-hmm.
And so he's taking the images and the experience of the riots and the protests and the experiences and Black Lives Matter and just all the thoughts and emotions and people and history, and just, I have no idea. I haven't heard anything. I just saw him and portrayed him through images as the powerful man that he is, and then just letting him put his collaborative piece with that, and then we'll have, I don't know what it would be. It'd be pretty awesome.
Well, Jim, if you keep telling me how great I am, I'm never going to finish it. I'm not going to think it's good enough, and we're going to have nothing.
Well, I'll just have to fill in the blanks with blah, 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 blah.
Where are you going to curate it or archive it?
I ain't got that far yet.
Okay. All right.
I mean, I don't know. We'll probably put it online somewhere, I'm sure.
I'm sure it'll be on YouTube, because that's where that's where to get the most views and be the most accessible. But I like to have it attached to hopefully some other websites that are actually doing something. I want to say that I've been out with the protests since, but I hadn't gone out with this time around because I want to do what's the next thing. Like, if the only thing we're doing in the streets is that's the only thing we're doing, we're missing something else. And I don't want to say, because that is very important. That is the first step. But we're doing that part, right? But we're not doing what's next. And I want to be a part of that what's next thing. And that's what I'm trying to focus on. What is that going to look like?
I really appreciate that. And I think that goes a little bit into our next question. So speak a little bit more about that, Jah. How would you like to see art, the next thing? How would you like to see that evolve in drawing communities together?
So with my age, I remember going to rec centers and being able to color, right? I remember having an actual arts classroom where we paint, finger paint. Even if we painted by numbers, we still would paint. I would like to see the people who are actually in charge give the arts community more than that change they're giving them to make change. And don't get me wrong, it's accepted, it's needed. But here's the thing. Without sports, and COVID is a proof of this now, there's no sports now. What are the children doing? I'm not going to talk about the adults, right? Not yet. What are the children doing? Half the children can't write in cursive. Half the children can't, they don't want to hear anything about poetry. That's to forget about it. They're not writing short stories, right? I don't know a lot of children who journal, and a lot of children aren't painting. They aren't coloring. They aren't doing these things. You know why? Because everybody says, hey, you need to be the next LeBron James. You need to be the Serena Venus. You need to drive a NASCAR. You know what I mean? So I'd like to see those people who are in charge that are of age to understand that the reason they are who they are is part of the reason because they were able to have arts at some point. I want them to pay attention to what the arts does to every single individual. Don't make it about who's going to get the next vote and the budget, this and that. Listen, you close the rec centers. If you're going to close the rec centers, then give us some art. I don't know how well the parks look. You can't go to the parks. They're not, you know what I mean? Like, you're not what you're saying we should be doing, we're not doing. All the money's going to sports, and that's all the children know about now. Let's give some pens and some pads and some crayons and some chalk to some people that can say, hey, send those children down the block, and we're just going to scribble on this ground. Let's find the next artist right here on this sidewalk with some chalk. And then let's let him say what he wrote and speak to somebody else. Let's teach him that her voice means more than just, hey, hut 1, hut 2, I got a jump shot, I'm going to knock this ball out the park. We need to fade from that and give the children, I want the higher ups, those people that are pushing those pens, to remember what they had that made them the people that they are today. And I mean, for me, that's it. Give the money to the arts community to do some things, because we can change. Look at now, I'm on Instagram every night at someone's poetry open mic. In fact, I have 6 gigs in LA, in California, 2 in LA, that I would not have had if COVID-19 didn't force us to go on Instagram. Now, I want to say this. When you go on Instagram Live, I don't see the big sports people having all of these talks. I don't see the rappers and the R&B singers and the guitarists, and I don't see the musicians on Instagram Live pushing what we're doing. I see the visual artists doing their lives in painting. I see the poets having open mics. I can go on open. In fact, I have an open mic I'm doing tonight on Instagram. So every night there's open mic where we are sharing our art. And you know what? I have more people calling me, asking me to teach them how to write and help them write, how to get their book done, that are all across the globe. I performed in the UK 3 times last week and never left my home. What does that say? So, in a nutshell, that's what I want. Give the arts their platform. Give us what we need to build some community. And I'm not going to talk anymore because I'll talk all day on that. I get real passionate. I'm sorry.
No, don't you dare apologize. And again, I'm a literacy teacher. The written word is the most powerful form of communication. We know that, but it is. I'm just going to applaud you, and I'm going to be backing you. Hope it happens. Absolutely. How about you, Jim?
Yeah, I want to add to all of what Jah said right there, and with the fact, but start with chapter 1. We need to break stigma first, and break stigma around art as being unimportant or not masculine, not, just all these stigmas, just like mental health. There's a lot of negative stigma around art, but it's so critical within our culture to implement in all forms of art, especially visual and written art, in that it teaches us communication. And the problem we have in our community and in our society now is lack of being able to communicate with each other and having open and honest communication. And we've lost that with technology. We can't express ourselves in an open and honest way without shame or guilt or other feelings getting in the way. And art allows us to express that. And then so having that in our lives, relearning how to express ourselves and to communicate will allow us to, as a society, sit down around a table and say, you know what, I'm kind of scared to walk in your neighborhood, or, you know what, I'm kind of scared to get pulled over, or, and have these hard conversations, because we know what to do with the words that we're hearing from the person across the table from us. We know how to communicate back and forth. We've learned how to express ourselves again. And if Jah says to me, you pissed me off when you said this crap about, Black people the other day, and I don't know how to communicate myself, I'm going to just return with hate and the conversation with some kind of just words and junk to end it, because I don't want to deal with it. But I can communicate so I can understand what he's saying, and I can react, and we can understand each other. And we've done that because I've listened to some of his poetry and have talked to him and said, "Yeah, man, how could you say that? Because I don't feel that way about you, and you don't feel that way about me." I kind of called him out on a few things a couple times, but we can communicate, right, and have conversations about that.
Yeah.
But art has taught us to do that, and we're men. And so if more people were open to that, and the arts were funded better, and we had diverse people in the community that were passionate about it and could deliver it to kids and adults in the community, it'd be fantastic.
I don't know how much time we got, but I would like to share something if we have.
Go for it. Yeah, we've got time.
I went to, like I said, my brother and I have been doing poetry full-time for 7 years now. I want to say right after our first year anniversary that summer, I went with a friend of mine who was a social worker. And she asked me to come in just to share some poetry with some children who were in the system, right? And oh my gosh, I went to... Now, the poets that I brought with me were well seasoned. I mean, these were poets that I've been looking up to their work, right? And we got to this space we were in, and there's a young lady there, and she asked me if I would read this poem. And this, I tell this story all the time because I want people to understand what the arts can do. And she's been in this program for a couple of years. She's been removed from her home because she said her dad, her brothers, her uncles, and her cousins had their way. And she thought the reason she was here is for them to have pleasure. And she wrote it in a poem that would have not gotten out if I wasn't there, because she didn't give it to anyone else. She asked me. Okay? I didn't read it out. I said, "Did you want me to read it out loud?" I didn't know what I was reading. And I asked her, "Did she want to read it out?" She said, "No, just read it to yourself, and then we can share." You understand what I'm saying? I think she was 12 years old at the time. She's an adult now, so she's out of the program. But my problem is people don't see those stories, so they don't understand the value. Had we not gone there, who knows, would she have even been able to get that? So now they're able to give her help that she needs, because they may not have ever known that. My friend was a social worker. She told me, she said, "Oh my gosh, if you weren't here, I don't know if she would have ever told anybody that story." She can't tell me whether the young lady had shared that story before, but we don't know. So the value in what the arts can do for the community, because it helps one person who can help another person help another person. I've had grown men come to me after the show and say, "Listen, I started going to therapy, or I'm willing to go to therapy now that you said it's okay." Oh, I mean, wow. So I think people need to I share that story all the time because I want people to understand that. 13 years old, crushed my heart.
Jah, you said something earlier that the spoken word, it helps deliver a message.
Yeah.
That message got delivered.
It got delivered.
And you were willing to listen. And as Jim said, the spoken word, you listen with your heart.
That's it.
Appreciate it. All right, Holland, you're up.
We've got one final question. What's a metaphor to help us understand the power of spoken word art?
A metaphor? I'll give you a short poem instead.
Okay.
Real simple. It takes a little change to make change. That's a metaphor.
Perfect. Jim?
This is hard. I'm not going to lie. I couldn't come up with anything off the top of my head.
That's okay, Jim. You know what? We asked this question because, again, and think about this as a visual expression.
Cinnamon. Visually. Okay, so I did come up with a visual. So I looked up. So I researched it because words actually are hard for me. with my brain injury, if I read something, I'll get two sentences in and I lose it. It goes. I don't know where it goes. But visual images work for me. So I had to look it up because I forget stuff all the time. So this is from Khalil Gibran. And it's all our words are but crumbs that fall down from the feast of the mind.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so our mind is constantly feasting on this world around us, and we're just taking all these little pieces and things that we're seeing and experiencing and using art to make sense of it all.
Yeah.
Both visually and spoken word.
That's a terrific metaphor.
That is.
Well, all our words are but crumbs that fall from the feast of the mind. Is that right?
All our words are but crumbs that fall down from the feast of the mind.
Wow.
So true. Wow.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Alan, again, man, this has been an incredible conversation.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, Jim, tell us where we can find you. Where can people go if they want to know more about the Charlotte Art League or your personal work? Where can they find you?
They can go to Charlotte Art League is charlotteartleague.org. And my personal website is jjdphoto, 2, and then art.com. And it's the same thing on Instagram as well.
Okay, great. And we will include that in our show notes. How about you, Jah?
They can find me at Coach Jah Smalls anywhere. So
All the socials, huh?
yeah, if you find it, you can find me anywhere now. And you people usually go to YouTube and Instagram first, and that's the best way.
Okay, Coach Jah Smalls. Well, we will definitely include that in our show notes. Thank you all so much for being part of our conversation, and this was powerful.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, love you, brother.
Jim, I don't know what I would do without you, bro. We got plenty of work to do, man. Love back at you.
Love it. So much good conversation around the table. Well, join us next week as we talk about women empowering women and why we need to hear the stories of resilience with Chef Erin Nobles of the Silver Spoon Bakery and former South Carolina First Lady Rachel Hodges. While you wait, please leave us a review, rate us on iTunes, become a subscriber to the AfterwordPodcast.com. It does help us keep the conversations going. And as always, remember, you are welcome at our table.